Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Lots to get into. Erik ten Hag hung out to dry and furious with the lack of transfer activity this summer. We'll talk about some of the big headlines this morning, also the fallout from yesterday. But I've got to be honest, people can moan about me being late. It's probably one of the few shows that I just didn't really want to do this morning. I don't really know what to say. I mean, we'll go through the news. I'll give you my opinion, but please, somebody explain to me what the positives are. For somebody that's been classed as negative for the last few weeks, I'm begging for a positive here. Went to bed last night, couldn't believe how bad we are as a football club. Woke up this morning and can't believe the stuff I'm reading. It's just the reason we will always fail is because people can't get past their agendas. I put out a tweet this morning about Harry Maguire's Wikipedia page. Basically, he's done nothing. And he's the captain of the team. And I actually said in the tweet, whatever you think about him as a centre-back, he's not respected as a captain. And a captain's really important. Whether it's Roy Keane, John Terry, Steven Gerrard, a captain's important because it leads the team. That team is not led. They go 1-0 down to anybody and their heads drop. Nobody respects Harry Maguire. They all like him. Well, they don't all like him. Some of the players in the dressing room like him, but nobody respects him. They don't listen to him. When he shouts, he's got no authority. He's won nothing. I bet Eric Dyer's made more Champions League appearances than him. He's got no authority in that team. And I even put in the replies will be full of Ronaldo hate, De Gea hate, Bruno hate, Rashford hate. And it's like, you're all running off with your little agendas. De Gea was crap yesterday. Bruno's been crap for ages. We should sell Ronaldo. I'll tell you why in a minute. Rashford should be sold to PSG. There's loads and loads of problems, but people want to run off with their own agendas. You've got the De Gea hate club. You've got the media coming out about Ronaldo. You've got all sorts of stuff going on. The fact is, if it was just one or two problems, I'd feel positive because you can solve them. This is not one or two problems. This is loads of problems. I want to talk about Ten Hag and him being furious about transfer activity. Nicholas says, James Robson on Twitter, Ronaldo not happy and no handshake from Ten Hag. Mate, watch the clip back. I've been saying this for ages. I believe there is an English bias where they just want to push the Ronaldo thing. I saw last night, Manchester Evening News journalist tweeted about it. James Robson's done it. I've actually quoted his tweet this morning of the video. And it's basically showing Ronaldo walking off the pitch, not happy. So what? Oh, he didn't walk and clap the away fans. Look, I think players should do that. Gary Neville gets his knickers in a twist about it. Each to their own. But this is a guy that wants to leave. You can understand why he wants to leave. And the funny thing is, the clip follows Ronaldo, and then right at the end, he hasn't cropped it properly because Harry Maguire's right behind him. What did Harry Maguire do? Did he not storm off the pitch behind Ronaldo as well? He tried to make out that he didn't handshake Ten Hag. They're nowhere near each other. Erik ten Hag's looking the other way. They snub each other completely, like he probably snubbed all the players, Ten Hag. It's just, this is why we fail. This is why we fail, because it'll be, the media will go for Ronaldo. Certain fans will go for De Gea. Certain people talk about Glazers. Certain people will protect their favourites. I don't protect any of them. Ronaldo should be sold because he doesn't deserve to be here. As a footballer, he doesn't deserve to be inflicted with that shit. He doesn't. And also, for all the media that's trying to attack Ronaldo was our man of the match. It doesn't mean anything, but he was still the most voted for man of the match player yesterday. So the media just want to make it about Ronaldo, don't they? Because they're not United fans. The media aren't United fans. They can pretend they're United fans. They're not United fans. Some of the stories they put out over the last couple of years, and some of the agendas they run, and the information they get fed from people in the dressing room, they're manipulators. That's what they are. If you've got a United player in the dressing room, which some of those journalists have, you're not a proper. You're not somebody who's actually really got the benefits of the club in hand. You're getting one story with your little scoop who gives you information from the dressing room, and I think that's why a lot of them go against Ronaldo, because Ronaldo doesn't give them anything, but certain players in that dressing room do, and certain players in that dressing room clearly don't like Ronaldo. But I tell you what, for every player in that dressing room that doesn't like Ronaldo, they can smile to Harry Maguire's face, but they don't respect him either, because none of them listen to him and none of them respect him. It's so clear. But look, there's just so many issues tomorrow. I'm depressed with yesterday. So I'm just depressed with it. You can't play a high line with Maguire. We also only played proper 10-hard ball in pre-season when Maguire wasn't playing, says Manchild. Leaving David to go out and take the blame just shows what a lousy captain Harry is, says Pauline Brooks. Only positive from this is hopefully finding getting everybody together and getting the Glazers out. Great show, Mark, says Paul. Mark, did you see De Gea asked to do an interview after the game? Harry Maguire would never, says James. Look, I was a bit positive last night about the fan base coming together, but you wake up this morning and everyone's arguing again, and you just go, what's the bloody point? What's the bloody... the time is now. There's an opportunity now to make a real difference, and people are arguing about goalkeepers and centre-backs, and the reality is they were all crap. And, look, I'll put my hands up. David De Gea, I really like David De Gea. Absolutely terrible yesterday. I didn't realise till this morning, because I was so busy doing other things, and then I just wanted to watch a film. I didn't realise that David De Gea came out after the game yesterday and said, I've cost the team 3 points, I'm sorry. Well, he should have come out and done that. I don't remember a player doing that. I don't remember Maguire doing that. I don't remember Rashford doing that. I don't remember Bruno doing that. I don't remember McTominay doing that. Fred doing that. Every other prat in that team that's cost us points over the last 12 months, I don't remember any of them ever coming out and saying that that we'd cost this team points. I don't remember it. So, look, David De Gea doesn't get a better score. He was terrible yesterday, and I think he knows that himself. But to come out after the game and actually take responsibility as an individual, instead of blaming, strikers or your fellow centre-back or whatever, it doesn't mean anything, but it was actually quite refreshing. Be interested to get your thoughts on Neville's comments yesterday. Always respect your opinions. You'd have to tell me what he said, Marcus. I haven't heard what Gary Neville said, to be honest with you. Somebody was on about the Glazers, but I look, the Glazers need to go, and everybody knows that. But I just don't want any excuses made for these players. Look, there seems to be a Fred sympathy club. Oh, Fred always gives 100%. What was his excuse yesterday? Then it was hot. Well, he's definitely from Stoke, then, isn't he? Because the guy's meant to be from Brazil. He can't blame the bloody heat. He's from Brazil. So clearly he is from Stoke if the heat affected him. I mean, what was Fred doing yesterday? Absolute shit. And call it out. Like, I like some of these players, but I don't like them at the moment. I just don't. I never. Some of these players have been doing it for game after game after game after game. For me, it's not an excuse to do it for 90 minutes. I can't believe the amount of United. I mean, I go back to what I said after the Brighton game. Some of these players never should have played for United again after last year. They never should have played for us again. They should have been gone in the summer. And you can name whatever names you want, but I can think of 4 or 5 that started or came off the bench yesterday. Never should have played for United again after last season. Some of them walked about. Some of them played in absolute thrashings. They were terrible. They've started the last 2 games, some of them, and they're playing exactly the same. They've got no pride. They've got no bounce back ability. They're not professionals, and I think the club's in trouble. As many said yesterday, I don't know when we're going to win. I don't know when we're going to win a game. Maybe they'll beat Liverpool. I mean, we shouldn't beat Liverpool. I can't see it. But Southampton away, I just don't see it. The team is a disgrace. And buying people like Adrian Rabiot, which is what we're trying to do in the next 2 days, I don't think that's going to make a massive amount of difference. If Ronaldo does not shit, the media has no food to swallow, says Tyreek. Did you see De Gea's interview after the game? He admitted to his mistake and almost cried. Says their gaming. Look, anyone can make mistakes. David De Gea for me last year was our 2nd player of the year. I think he's got a big season ahead of him in relation to how we're going to play under Ten Hag. Yesterday was the worst game I've seen him play, but I've seen Alisson make big mistakes. The problem De Gea's got is that a lot of people rate De Gea in the fan base and think he's a good goalkeeper, but we've got this cult of people that really don't like De Gea, and when you make a mistake, the cults will jump on you. So it's a difficult. There's so much toxicity in the fan base, and we all know that. The hilarious thing I find is that apparently this community is toxic, but as I just said, De Gea is one of my favourite players. He was terrible yesterday. I like Bruno. He's been terrible for weeks. I like Rashford. He's been terrible for 18 months. I don't rate Maguire and I don't rate McTominay, and I'd sell them instantly, but they get the same stick as people I do like. So. But the problem is we do have these little groups who just totally focus everything on one player, and we're never going to make any change. I mean, it's almost like It's almost like these people think that if you swapped De Gea with Henderson, everything would be fine. I've actually read them say, well, we would be fine because he'd pass out better from the back and everything starts from the goalkeeper. I mean, have you ever heard in your however many years you've been watching football, have you ever heard a top manager, a top coach or anybody say, the goalkeeper is the most important player on the pitch. If you sort the goalkeeper out, everything else will follow. I've never heard such shite in all my life. Never. I've heard midfield is where games are won and lost, and I've heard you need a goal scorer if you want to win games, but I've never heard goalkeeper, if you've got a world-class goalkeeper, you're fine. Everything will fall into place. But apparently that's the case. But the fact is, we may well need a new goalkeeper, let's be honest, but we need a hell of a lot more. From top to bottom. Man United and a team, though, they are all for themselves. As Chris, I've got a few super chats to get through. Then I'm going to go into what's been said about Ten Hag. Have to put more respect on Mark's name, the effort he puts in his events. I don't want to do the show today, Michael. I've got to be honest. Mark De Bruyne is the only player left from the squad Pep met at City. We need to build from scratch, says David. How long will it be till Knighton puts in a bid, says Darren. I mean, that's all getting very embarrassing, isn't it? I mean, arguing on Twitter again, it's just doesn't look good. Long week incoming. These players have all regressed since Ronaldo came. Oh, shut up. What a stupid. I just won't read out stupid comments because it just you know what my problem with it is, D-Train. You're doing what I've just spoken about. You want to make everything about one player. Oh, it's Ronaldo's fault. You know what? There is even people putting out tweets that we need to apologise to Solskjaer. One of the worst coaches we've ever had, who bought Maguire, who bought Wan-Bissaka, who promoted McTominay, you know, who got second place in an empty stadium playing counter-attacking shit football. We all need to apologise to Solskjaer. Let's bring Solskjaer back. I mean, things can't get any worse. Bring Solskjaer back and see what fucking happens. Useless. Changing owners will not give us the quick fix we need. It's positive, but not a fast solution. We need to start at the core. Well, you know what, Slow Sports News? This is the thing. We've played 2 games in a new United, and we already know we're in a worse position than we were last season. It's, you can't even put a time on this. No, and the great thing is, I don't have the answer. Gary Neville doesn't have the answer. You don't have the answer. Nobody's got the answer. They're just throwing answers out there. This is mission impossible. It's so bad and it's unsolvable at the moment. United are completely unrecognisable and become a team that clubs are looking forward to playing, says JNL. Thank you, Callum. Right, so look, let's go through some of the headlines because ultimately we're going to go back and forth if we don't bring a bit of structure. So, Eric, this is coming from Steve Bates, who writes for the Sunday People. He's been quite good this summer, as have the Mirror. So he's saying that Eric Ten Hag's advisors are furious that Manchester United have let him down badly in the transfer market. Ten Hag's agents have been left disappointed that he's been hung out to dry after being landed with a shambolic window and the Cristiano Ronaldo circus. Absolutely. I mean, I've got to say this. I'm going to say 2 things that may be controversial, but I've thought them through and I stand by them. I would sell Ronaldo because Ronaldo is a legend of this club and doesn't deserve to end his career in this shithole that's not going to get solved anytime in the next 2 years. So there's no point in keeping Ronaldo. Not because he said he wants to go, not because the press want him to go, not because some of the fans want him to go. He needs to go because if we respect our legends, he doesn't deserve to be involved in this shit. I want him to stay because he's the best player that we've got. He runs around constantly. If we could give him chances, he'd score goals. But there's absolutely no point in putting Cristiano Ronaldo, Erling Haaland, Harry Kane up front in that team to just run around with no service. Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Bruno Fernandes provided nothing for him yesterday in 90 minutes against the team many know will be in the bottom half of the table. He's wasting his time. Obviously, he doesn't want to be here because the club's the mess that we can all see it. I would sell Ronaldo because he deserves a move because he's actually done things in a Man United shirt, and why should he have to stay with all this shit that we're going to be playing all season? I'd sell Ronaldo because I think he deserves a move. I'd sell the rest of them because they're not Man United players. So basically, I'd sell the whole team. Ronaldo because he deserves it, and the rest of them because they're an absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. I wouldn't probably include a few players in that, but to be honest with you, yesterday was an absolute shambles, wasn't it? As for Eric Ten Hag, the second thing I'm going to say, I think Ten Hag is done. I do. I don't want him to be done. It's the same as Ronaldo for me. I don't want Ronaldo to go, but I think he should go to get away from this problem because he can't fix it. And I think Ten Hag should walk. I think the best thing Ten Hag can do is walk. Now, he won't do that because he's probably got admirable qualities like determination, doesn't want to be a quitter, also maybe financial reasons, I don't know. But for his career, he should walk, because I think many of us have a massive fear of how this is going to end, and it's not going to end well. I don't know where our next win's coming from, Eric. And I've been watching this team for years. I'm not convinced. No, I think any team would fancy beating us at the moment. If you don't get De Jong, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and you're bringing in Rabiot and some inexperienced striker as your last two signings, I don't see that as a major improvement. I don't think that's going to stop us going to Leicester and getting beat, Everton getting beat, everywhere else we got beat last year. And ultimately, the press will turn on you. They will turn on you. That's their job. So you're going to damage your career at this football club because we're unmanageable. Nobody could do this job, Eric. Nobody. And I think your reputation would be far, far better if you walked away from United and said, the club is a shambles. You'd do the fans an absolute service if you walked away tomorrow. If you walked away and went, I wanted to do a job here. It's an absolute disgrace how that club is being run. I cannot risk my reputation on this because I know in the next 2 years it's going to get worse and I'm going to get the sack. That would be a real message to the fan base that we've got to get these Glazers out. But I am really... Look, I said this a few weeks ago. I think that Erik ten Hag needs 2 magic wands. He needs a bloody miracle. And that was before the season started. I didn't think the season would start like this. He's got no chance. He's got absolutely no chance. He's being set up to fail, hung out to dry, as that article said. My prediction with Ten Hag is that over the next 18 months, he's going to get closer and closer to the sack. It's going to get worse for him. He's going to get ridiculed. You know what happens with the press. The players will definitely turn on him. And it's just going to be a long, painful, drawn-out sacking for a manager that deserves a lot better. And ultimately, it will be because the club did not do what Rangnick said. It did not do what Ten Hag asked for. And he's basically having to try and manage a Man United side with the team from last year. I want him to succeed. I don't want him to go. But I actually think the best thing for his career is probably to walk. But then again, he might look at it and go, look, if I do get the sack in 18 months, I'll get a big payoff and I'll definitely be able to get a job in the Bundesliga or something anyway. So maybe he won't do that. But I think he's being hung out to dry, yeah. Be interested to get your thoughts on Neville. I don't know what he said. I've said that, Marcus Wynn. Mark, I agree with you what Redknapp said to Gary. The players need to take responsibility, get a red card, make a tackle. Do you think we get relegated, says Mark. We're not playing with intensity in sports. We need to have to play with intensity. Well, apparently, Brentford ran as a team nearly 20 kilometres more than us. It's crazy, Ray. This takes the right personalities coming into the club at the top level. It's not impossible, but needs genuine change and a 5-year plan, says Edward Wilson. Darren says, Mark, you was right when you said that we should sell one of the big names like Rashford to make a statement and a warning to others, says Darren. I feel for Ten Hag and the fans and the Glazers and players need to really wake up and put a better effort in for the paying members, says Baden. And also, as well, look, I saw somebody ranting yesterday about emptying Old Trafford. Emptying Old Trafford sends a message, right? But it doesn't hit the Glazers in the pocket because the season tickets have already been paid for. This is the dangerous thing. Emptying Old Trafford, it's the message it sends. If you want to do that, if that's what people want to do. But it doesn't hit the Glazers in the pocket because the money's already there. We need to think things through. And I've heard certain protest groups saying that, look, patience. It's you've got to build this gradually. You can't just go bang and get the owners out. And I think there's something very, very, very true about that. Just very quickly, there's so much to talk about. Even if you accept the point that these players can't handle playing with Ronaldo, are those the players we can imagine get United back to the top, says Felipe de Silva. Mark, there is just no chance De Jong comes who would want to come to this absolute mess. I'm going to talk about him in a bit, TXN. But if I was the owner of the club, and it's worth doing this exercise as yourself, if I took over as the owner of the club tomorrow, and I've got every right to say, you've got every right to say if you did, because it's not going to happen. If I took as owner of that club tomorrow, the first thing I'd do is sack Richard Arnold and a load of people like that, sack John Murtagh and Darren Fletcher. I'd sack a lot of the coaches that were here from the Ollie era, because Ten Hag has brought some coaches in, but it's a myth to say he's brought 20 in. He's brought in about 3 or 4. There's still a lot of coaches left from the Ollie era. I would sack all those people and recruit specialists. That would basically be my ethos as the owner. It might take me a year or two, but I want specialists. I want the best available in every position, and I would create new positions as well, sporting directors. My CEO would be one of the best CEOs in world football. I would go out and say, that is it. And it's a very easy ethos to have. I'm going to recruit the best I can recruit in every position in this club, whether it's board, CEO, director of football, whatever. I want to recruit the best. Not mates, not people who've been at the club, the best. That's what I would do. And then in the playing staff, I would speak to the manager, and I would keep Ten Hag. I would keep Ten Hag and say, look, I'm a new owner. I didn't pick you, but I probably would between Poch and you. I'm going to give you 2 years, but you need to sit to me now and tell me why you're picking Harry Maguire as captain, why you're bringing McTominay on, why you're starting Fred, why you're starting Bruno when he's been bad for weeks. I want you to tell me, Eric, why you've done that. Because if you genuinely think that they're good enough for United, then maybe we've got to have a conversation. Because as the owner of this football club, I want you to sell 75% of that squad, and I'm going to rebuild it with you. And that's what I would do. And I think everybody would do that. But for some reason, a new manager's come in and maintained the shit from last year. And still prioritises them over his own signings. This Liverpool game should not happen. If it happens, that will be disaster and be even worse than this. Well, you can't get the Liverpool game off because you don't want to get beat by Liverpool. Like, the whole point of the Liverpool game being called off last time was as a protest to the Super League. If people want to protest before the Liverpool game or not go to the Liverpool game because they don't like the Glazers, absolutely fine. But there's people saying this game can't go ahead because we'll lose. I mean, we can't not play games because we're going to get beat. That's completely defeats the purpose of what the message is. Hi Mark, love the show. Would you accept relegation if it got rid of the Glazers? Well, I'm not going to accept anything 25th Ben because that's not a hypothetical, is it? It's a hypothetical, it's not true. Where are the animals in the squad? Vidic, Rooney type players, says Rishad. And, well, look, I believe a captain's really important. I really, really do. And if nobody saw my tweet earlier, and I make no apologies for this, there are other players that are, Bruno deserves a lot of criticism, Rashford, there's loads of others. I mean, collectively, they all do. But I was looking at Harry Maguire. He's 29, isn't he? Is he 29 this year or is 29 already? I was looking at his honours. Hull City, Football League Championship Playoffs 2016. Man United, UEFA Europa League runner-up. That's it. That is a 29-year-old Manchester United captain's club honours. He won promotion with Hull and he was a Europa League runner-up. That's his honours. End of story. Oh, he's a runner-up in the Euros as well. And third place in the Nations League with England. That's the guy leading our club. Now, people are saying, oh, that's an agenda against Harry. I'm talking about the captain. When you're the captain of the club, you've got two roles. Yesterday, you assess Maguire as a player, like you assess Bruno as a player. He didn't play very well. But you can't assess Bruno as the captain and leader, because he's not. Maguire is captain and leader. When Roy Keane was at the club, after a game, you assess his performance as an individual, and then you assess his performance as a captain. That's what it means to be a captain. That's what it means to be a Brian Robson or a Roy Keane. That's what it means, or a Nemanja Vidic. You are a captain and you are a player. And basically, you've got to be a bloody good player because then you've got to be a leader as well. That team never responds to him. I think a goal went in yesterday and he stood there and went, "What's going on?" or something like that. And I guarantee everyone else was just like, whatever. There is no demand. I'll tell you now, it can't happen. Well, actually, you could stick Roy Keane in that midfield now with his bad hip. He wouldn't be a very good player, but I guarantee, put a kit on him in that team and he would lead that team. I'd love to see even a 33-year-old Roy Keane in that midfield. Because he'd be better than anything we've seen for about 5 years. But also, imagine what he would do to those players. He would rocket them. And we just don't have anybody to do that. I don't even mind if Maguire plays at centre-back. I want a bloody leader in that team. There's no leadership. And for me, maybe it's old school, maybe it's obvious. But you need a leader. You need a leader in a team. And we just don't have one. And again, you've got to question why he is still the leader of that team. It's politics. I said this last night. I've calmed down from last night. There are politics in that dressing room. Decisions get made to maintain the status quo, to keep people happy. The easiest decision to make. Because if you make Bruno the captain, which would be a mistake, that wouldn't please certain sections of the fan base. If you make Ronaldo captain, that would really unsettle a lot of the dressing room. So if you make De Gea captain, well, you know, again, some people would be unhappy with that. With Maguire, people like him, they just don't respect him. So it's like we've got a captain that people like, but actually don't want to follow. So we have no leader. That's ultimately what the case is. Anyway, so look, Erik ten Hag's advisors are furious with how he's been treated this summer. Let's bring it back to that. He's been let down badly, and he has. I'm probably about lethargic and excited about this transfer window now, as all of you are, but it is news, and it is coming from a good source that Ten Hag's furious about the transfer window. Of course he is. Of course he is. He said after the game yesterday, we need signings, we need quality players. It's too late. It's too late. We've got 2.5 weeks left of the transfer window now. It closes on Thursday in 2 weeks. All the good players are gone. We have absolutely destroyed this transfer window, and I said it. I don't know whether I said it last night or I dreamt it last night, and I did want to mention it on the morning show. We know this club is broken, yeah. We know this football club needs ripping apart from top to bottom and rebuilding, yeah. I know that we can't rescue this season. It's gone. It's gone. Would you rather give Rabiot 200 grand a week and 20 million pounds to Juventus in add-ons, or would you rather keep that money back? Would you rather go and try and buy any old striker for 30 million, or would you rather keep that money back? If we're going to go and desperately spend 60, 70, 80 million in the next 2.5 weeks, I would rather we didn't spend it. You know, take your fucking dividends if you want to. Just don't spend it and fuck off, basically. That's what I would rather see. Because I don't want us to just chuck money at the problem. And, you know, certain sections of the fan base go, oh, maybe he's going to be good. Maybe he's going to be good. I've seen Rabiot at Man United for the last 10 years. I've seen desperate last week signings for 10 years. I've seen players that, you know, the manager doesn't really want, but says I'd rather have him than anything, and we overpay for the last 10 years. If we really want to get the Glazers out, just please don't spend any more money. It is what it is. The season is fucked already. Don't spend your money. You want to take your dividends anyway. Just don't bother damaging this squad anymore with players on 200 grand a week on massive contracts that are going to be here when we try and actually rebuild. I actually don't want us to spend any more money this transfer window, because all it will do is lumber us with overpaid, long contract players that when we do make change, if we make change, we'll be stuck with them as well, trying to remove them. I'd rather we just said enough is enough. Stop causing damage to this football club. Let's get on with what we've got, and let's get on with moving this bloody ownership out and changing these players, because all it is, if you think of the United squad as a big pile of crap, it's like shoveling up more and putting it on top. That's all they're going to do over the next few weeks, because none of these players are what Erik ten Hag wanted. And there was a great bit, I think it was from Mullock in the Mirror. Here it is. Ten Hag was handed a 150 million budget on his arrival at Old Trafford earlier this summer, and immediately asked for 6 new signings to begin a major rebuild. He was also told any money raised by departures would be added to his kitty. I would read that back to yourselves while I'm talking if you want to, but that is as close to fact as you will ever get. That was what everybody was told. Journalists, we discussed it. This was what New United was. I hate to take you back, but this was what New United was. This was what we were excited about in the middle of May. That's what Ten Hag was sold. That's what was meant to happen. 150 million quid. 125, 150 million, whatever, but it would be supplemented by sales. And he wanted 6 signings. And the signings he wanted were Timber, De Jong, Anthony, Eriksen, Malacia, Dumfries. And he also wanted Darwin Núñez, but by then they probably knew they weren't going to get him. So those 6 players, of which he's got the free agent and he's got Malacia. He's overpaid for Lisandro Martinez, who was the centre-back he didn't actually want, by the way. He wanted Timber, so he's had to go second choice there. They've also sold nobody. So they've spent about 55 million quid, which is nowhere near the budget and they haven't supplemented the budget by selling players. I mean, it's also important to remember that whilst the signings of players has been absolutely total failure, we've only sold Andreas Pereira as well. Like, everywhere you turn at United at the moment, it's competence. Incompetence. Like, Brandon Williams is still here. Axel Tuanzebe is still here. Eric Bailly is still here. Phil Jones is still here. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is still here. There's probably 3 or 4 I can't even remember the names of. Tellez is still here. No, Tellez has gone on loan, hasn't he? So Tellez has gone on loan. No money. Dean Henderson's gone on loan. No money. It's just chaos. It defies. But I don't think I could have done a worse job if I was doing this part-time. Director of football. I don't think I could have done a worse job. I could have rung Ajax up. You know, I could have finished the 2 o'clock show and got an email address for Ajax and say, I'll give you 55 million euros for Lisandro Martinez, and they would have took it. I wouldn't have needed to fly to Amsterdam or do a Zoom call. They would have took 55 million euros. So, you know, I could have got Ericsson to sign by offering him more money than Brentford. I could, you know, it defies logic how bad we've been. But I suppose the most important thing is that he's just been completely and utterly let down. As a manager, he's been let down. And I think that, you know, I find it impossible to see how this is going to get better this season. And I'll repeat it again. I want Ten Hag to stay. I want him to do well. I think he's on the long road to failure at Manchester United. So yeah, I've just knocked the volume up if it was down a bit low for people. Yeah, he's on the long road to failure and he's going to fail. And of course, one of the reasons I was really reluctant to do this show today is because I can't bring you any positive news. And I want to bring you some positive news, but I can't give you any positive news. And as I sit here now, after 2 losses, deserved losses, thrashing to Brentford, these players are crap. They're not going to suddenly grow a backbone. They're not going to suddenly find camaraderie, professionalism and consistency. They are going to keep letting us down, and they are also blame shifters as well. So for a new manager, I mean, I can believe it, but when you look at it, you also have to question how a manager has had 6 weeks with these players. He's took them on tour. They've smiled. They've done the winning team photos. They've been really, we've never worked so hard. They've thrown every other manager under the bus. Rangnick, Solskjaer, Mourinho. We've never worked so hard. We've got proper coaching. They've made themselves look. I mean, they don't need to try. They already look like a bunch of prats. But imagine all the interviews every one of those first team players has done, saying, we've never worked so hard. The coaching's fantastic. We've never had a pre-season like this. And then they go and get beat by Brighton at home and 4-0 to Brentford. Like, you'd have been better off keeping your mouth shut about how hard you've been working in pre-season and how good the coaching is, because you've exposed yourself as being players that are so thick you cannot take on board what a decent coach is telling you. Now, apparently last night, Ten Hag knew that Brentford were going to press them and thought they were going to play out from the back. So he told his team to play long. We didn't do it. So, yeah, it's crazy. Why is Eric Ten Hag being asked transfer stuff? Should it be Murtaugh's job to answer those, says Jody? Well, it should be, but it never is. Gary Nova argued with Jamie Radknapp how the Glazers do not put their hands in their own pocket for our club. Instead, they only spend from the profits the club operations generates, says Brazil. Had there been any other organisation, there would be integrity concerns about how our board works. Can't sell, can't sign, but approve silly wages, says Mojo. Mark, can you make a comparison series between all current players? This would show Ten Hag who to prioritise by facts, says Simon. Look, if Eric Ten Hag needs us to do videos on who we should get rid of, then he's already lost. I can see us being relegated and struggling to find our way back, says Clive. We're not going to get relegated, but we're going to have a horrible season, and we are we're in massive trouble. Just going back to that point about the Glazers putting money in. Look, the Glazers are they're terrible owners. They're terrible, and one thing outsiders will say is, you've spent £1 billion over the last 10 years. You can't blame the Glazers. I've heard all sorts of non-United fans say it, but they've taken nearly £2 billion out of the club since they've been here in debt repayments and dividends. They've maintained a debt of £500 million. Manchester United, before the Glazers came in, we had no debt and our income was there to be used to build the club. Since the Glazers came in, they've kept us in debt. They bought us on debt, they've kept us in debt, and they've taken between 1 and 2 billion out of the club in debt repayments and dividends. That's between 1 and 2 billion pounds that could have been going into stadium renewal, more signings, better recruitment, etc. So yes, they have spent £1 billion, and it's a good point. They have spent £1 billion, but as owners, they've taken way over that out, and they've got no right to do that, and they've kept us in debt. They are terrible, terrible owners, and that is a fact. You do need to acknowledge the fact that they have spent £1 billion over the last 10 years, though, because that is why they're bad as well, because they are the boss, and they have recruited people, whether it's CEOs or directors of footballs, who don't know what they're doing. So yes, we have spent £1 billion, but actually that comes back to the Glazers as well, because they can't even be asked to recruit proper people. And why they won't recruit an Edwin van der Sar or a top CEO or a top footballing director of football, you know why they won't do it? Because United is basically a cash cow to the Glazers, as we know. So the reason Ed Woodward was CEO is because he helped them buy the club. So Ed Woodward knows, because he's mates with the Glazers, his job is to publicly pretend that he's here to make United good, but really to funnel money into the Glazers and to service the debt and maintain the dividend payments, etc. Richard Arnold is the same. Richard Arnold went to the same university as Ed Woodward. They've been mates for years, and Richard Arnold worked alongside Ed Woodward for the last 10 years as well. So Richard Arnold is just another mate of the Glazers. The Glazers would never appoint a footballing CEO, because a footballing CEO would say you need to stop taking dividends out and we need to build proper infrastructure around the football club. We need to spend a lot of money on the stadium, a lot of money on this, a lot of money on that. We need to sell some of these mistakes of the past, these 80 million, bodge jobs, whatever you want to call it. But that won't happen. And the Glazers don't want that to happen. So again, it is the Glazers who are at fault, because they've maintained this machine that basically goes round and round but makes them money. Mark, you keep saying we're going to be in the Europa League next year. We might not even have European football. No, it's a good point, Connor, to be fair. I haven't said we'll be in the Europa League next year, but we won't be in the Champions League. Man United are like the boxer who's punch resistant has gone, and he's now getting knocked out by journeyman since Jimmy Jones, because everyone's a better team than us, Jimmy. Everyone's a better team. Everybody is a better team than Manchester United. You see it every game. There are good players on paper in that United side, but they don't play as a team. They don't like each other. They don't trust each other, because they basically, a stereotypical Manchester United player is egotistical, arrogant, and thinks the world owes them a living. They're surrounded by people who wipe their arse and tell them they're great. That is a Man United player, stereotypically. So they fall out with each other. They have little cliques. They don't trust each other. They don't like each other. They don't respect each other. And therefore, you end up with a team of players that have got good wages, and some of them aren't bad players individually, but they're not a team. Well, last time I checked, football is a game of 11 players. It's a team sport. United haven't got a team. They haven't got a team ethic. We haven't actually got enough good players either, to be fair. But when you play Brentford, they might not have players on 200 or 150 grand a week, and they might not have a team full of internationals, but they play as a team. They all play together. They all respect each other. I guarantee not every Brentford player likes each other, but they play together with one common goal. Man United don't. And if you come up against, you could go to war with an absolutely amazing army, but if they don't work together and they don't like each other, the well-organised, lesser army will win. And that's what happens. United are not a team. And it comes back to the leadership, it comes back to the captain, it comes back to the selections, it comes back to the individuals. As I said last night, I'm still absolutely lost as to why Erik ten Hag is keeping the same captain that Solskjaer and Rangnick had. I mean, if I was what doesn't make sense to me, because I'm not going to go over old ground here. You drop McTominay from the last game because he was crap, and then you bring him on at half-time when we're 4-0 down. McTominay's not creative. He's not creative, he's bang average. You've got Donny van der Beek who's creative, and you've got James Garner who can conduct the game. We're 4-0 down, you bring McTominay on ahead of those two. When you dropped him from the last game and he played most of the last season shit. Maguire's still your captain, Bruno's still playing 90 minutes, Rashford's still playing 90 minutes. You're the new manager of this football club, And if you spoke to any fan at the end of last season, before you even started your job, they'd say, it's annoying how Bruno plays 90 minutes all the time when he's been rubbish for weeks. It's annoying how Rashford plays 90 minutes all the time when he's been rubbish for weeks. It's annoying how Maguire's the captain and he's the worst one we've ever had. And it's annoying how McTominay and Fred get picked every week and no one else gets a chance. So what does Ten Hag do? Plays Bruno 90 minutes all the time, Rashford 90 minutes all the time, McTominay and Fred basically playing all the games again, and Maguire's still the captain. As a new manager, you've got an opportunity to come in and instantly make changes and stamp your authority, and the fans will back you on it. And what does he do? He makes the same decisions that Solskjaer and Rangnick have done. It's just odd. Don't tell me there's not political things going on in that club. I actually think the captaincy wasn't down to Ten Hag. I think that was a club decision where they all sat in a room and decided it would be best if we keep Harry as captain. Tell me I'm wrong. It just doesn't make... If I'm wrong, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand why we keep starting those same players. Any reason I can think of is their contract states it, says Stephen. Yeah, but I disagree with that, Stephen, because Rafael Varane's on 300 grand a week. If anyone should have in their contract, it should be him. Have you considered this? It might be Maguire's contract that will captain when on the pitch, but when we signed him, Akshay, he wasn't the captain, so it can't be in his contract. I just think it comes down to player power or something like that. This was interesting from Mullock as well. Ten Hag believes that Frenkie de Jong will choose Manchester United ahead of Chelsea. As I said, yesterday morning, there was confidence that we were going to get de Jong. There was confidence coming out of Manchester United. There was confidence even coming out of Barcelona that de Jong would be open to coming to Manchester United. I actually think last night's performance has probably blown it, because there is no reason for Frenkie de Jong to come to Manchester United now. He never really wanted to come, but I think there was a belief that we might be able to change his mind. But, you know, we've lost to Brighton and we've lost to Brentford, and we're probably going to lose to Liverpool and Southampton. Like, de Jong is 25, he's playing in Barcelona, he's one of the best midfielders in Europe. If he comes to Man United, he's writing off the next 2 years of his career, maybe 3. All right, you're going to be on 400 grand a week, but it's a mercenary move. It's a complete and utter mercenary move, and even I can see that. So, as much as I would like de Jong to come, because he's going to be way better than anything else that we've got, it's a complete and utter mercenary move. It's Alexis Sanchez all over again. You're coming to Man United for the money. You're not coming for your career. There is absolutely no prospects at Manchester United. And also, if I'm de Jong, I'm going, how long's Ten Hag going to be the manager? That's got to be a factor as well. He's lost his first 2 games. How long is he going to be the manager here? What am I committing myself to? You know, all right, things are bad at Barcelona, but Man United, God, my career could get even worse. So I agree with that. And I think that's probably an opinion that's changed in the last 24 hours with Ten Hag, because there was a lot of confidence yesterday morning that United were going to get Ten Hag. But I think last night has probably fucked it. And you can see why. You can see why, because we'd have said to Frenkie de Jong, look, we want to build a team around you. It's a new Man United. We are in the Europa League, but we're going to be back in the Champions League next summer. It's 1 year out. But after last night, you know it's not 1 year out. Arsenal look good. Liverpool and Man City are going to be good. Spurs and Chelsea are better than us. So we won't get top 5, really. That's not going to get you in the Champions League then. And we're not going to win the Europa League. I mean, you can imagine what some continental teams will do to us. So... yeah, I just think de Jong would be crazy. I'm not saying it's over. I've always believed we would get de Jong, but this is why we needed to get de Jong before the season started, because if we'd got him before the season started and we'd lost the first 2 games, it'd be like, oh, well, you've already signed. And this goes back to how bad the transfer window's been, because by leaving deals late, these players get to see how bad we are and go, you know what, I might have signed for you in July, but now I know how bad you really are. You can dream on. There's positive here, nowhere left for owners to hide, no new manager bounce, no shoddy signings, no positive spin, and sponsor withdrawal comes next, says JD. Look, things might need to get worse to get better. I think sponsors should be targeted, but in a different way. I think sponsors need to be, you know, sponsors want you. They want you. The reason Man United have a sponsor here and everywhere else is because they want you to see it and buy their product. At the moment, my message to a Man United sponsor would be, we don't like you, because we don't like the team, we don't like the owners, and we don't like the players. So, and when I say we don't like the team, I don't mean we don't like Manchester United. We love Manchester United, but I mean the team, the players. So when you see a sponsor on a training top or on a sleeve or wherever, that sponsor is perceived negatively by Man United fans, whether it's Adidas, TeamViewer, whoever. That's not Adidas or TeamViewer's fault. But if you want to be seen as positive by Man United fans, help us remove the Glazers, because at the moment you're paying the Glazers to get our eyes, and we don't want to see your eye. We don't look on your product in a positive way, because we don't look on that ownership or team in a positive way. So I'm not saying, I mean, it'd be great, but is there any way that these sponsors can actually help us get rid of the Glazers? Because you're still going to be the sponsor. Some of these sponsors are Man United sponsors until 2026. It's 2022. If I'm TeamViewer and I've got a contract with Manchester United till 2026, this is only going to get worse for your brand, because we don't want this ownership. But if you help us get rid of this ownership, you're going to get 3 years of a new ownership where everything's positive and everyone likes TeamViewer, and suddenly that 3-4 year, you know what I mean? If you've got a 5-year deal sponsoring United and you're right at the start of it now, you've got 5 more years of this. Help us get rid of the Glazers, and you might get 3 or 4 years of the boom, of the new United, and people will look on you positively and go, you know what, that sponsor really helped us. That's what I'd be looking at. I mean, it's probably written in their contract that they can't do anything negative towards the Glazers, but you shouldn't have signed it. Mark, I know Sancho is still a new player, but I often see we don't talk about him so much. Maybe he will need time, but I fear for him. Look, Sancho needs to be spoken about. Sharath, yeah. Fred needs to be spoken about. There's loads of people that need to be spoken about, let's be honest. Nobody comes out of yesterday with any credit, to be honest with you, do they? Ten Hag has been reluctant to tell Manchester United to press the button on any further income deals, because he is worried it would strip him of the finances to sign De Jong. And also he's spoken to Gakpo and explained the financial tightrope. He is aware that PSV will not cash in on the player anyway until their Champions League fate is decided. Manchester United also fear that Barcelona are trying to force them into making the 17 million obligation. I mean, basically, to summarise all that, it's what we feared. There's no money if we get Frenkie de Jong. The reason Ten Hag hasn't gone for other signings, and we spoke about this back in early June. Remember in June, United were putting it out there that they're not going to sign anyone else until they sign De Jong. And we were like, why aren't we doing other deals? And then they suddenly did Martinez and Malacia because they knew the De Jong deal was going to go on for ages. But the main reason, and it's what we feared, the main reason the focus has always been De Jong is because we never knew how much we were going to have to pay for De Jong. And basically, it's most of the budget. Now, there will be people in the chat saying, well, that's on Ten Hag. Spending a ridiculous amount of money on one player when you've seen that team yesterday is stupid. And look, we're all geniuses in hindsight. I think you needed to see I don't know how much research Ten Hag did on United last season, and maybe he didn't do a thorough job, because many of you quite rightly said, why are we going for De Jong? Why are we spending 70, 80 million pounds on De Jong when you could buy 2 or 3 players? You could definitely get Lema for 2025. You could have got Basuma for 2025. That's 2 players for 50 million quid. And we need quantity as well as quality. But maybe Ten Hag didn't analyse that United team that well. Maybe he was like, yeah, I'll bring De Jong in with what we've got and we'll be fine. But if De Jong had played yesterday, we still would have lost. I've not heard anybody say that, and it's true. If De Jong played yesterday, we would still lose. One player in this league will not make you a winner. We've got one of the best players in the world up front in Ronaldo, and we've just been beat 4-0. Like, De Jong in that midfield would make it better, but I don't think it would have stopped us losing, because Brentford are a better team than us. So maybe there has been a mistake by going for De Jong and only De Jong, and if we don't get De Jong, there's definitely been a mistake. But you can sort of understand it from Ten Hag's point of view. He wants this player, and he also knows that if he starts spending money elsewhere, there's probably no money left for De Jong. He's definitely been working to a budget, and I think it's bloody ridiculous what we've spent. Welcome to the Members Club Reviewed. Miracle if Ronaldo stays and De Jong comes, says TT. Mark, if you had a look at our bench at 4-0 down, who's Eric Ten Hag supposed to put on apart from Donny? They're all kids. The bench was a joke, Frank, as we know, especially up front. There's nothing. I mean, Alanga coming on just shows you how weak we are. Hi Mark, do you think Ten Hag will stay? And I'm not having a pop at Elanga. I just don't think he's ready. I think he's been thrown in too soon. Hey Mark, do you think Ten Hag will stay if Man United finish 6th or 7th as David? Mate, I can't. I don't know. I don't know. I can't provide any predictions on United. What if we lose to Liverpool and Southampton? That's 4 losses in a row. People be saying he needs to be sacked. He doesn't need to be sacked because the players are shit. But like, on the other hand, it's unacceptable for United to lose 4 games in a row. We've lost 7 away games in a row, by the way. That's a record that's been broken since the 1930s. We've had 7 thrashings in the last 12 months. Liverpool twice, Man City, Watford, Leicester, Brentford, Brighton. There's probably another one as well. Mark, a clause in Adidas deal says that if we're out of the Champions League, the sponsorship fee is reduced by 30%. As it looks right now, Adidas is not paying us 75 million next year. Yeah, well, Richard Arnold, amongst all the lies he had last in that pub talk, he did say that we're all right this summer, but next summer we're in big trouble. This is what I mean. The time is now to try and make change at Man United because next summer's going to be worse. And this summer's been shit. Mark, he should forget the transfer window and focus on January, put all the players on notice and start from there, says Rick. I don't think he can focus on January, mate. He's got Prats ahead of him. I don't think Ten Hag can do anything. He gave them the list. They didn't deliver. He can give them any list they want. They won't deliver. Then we should look at the players refusing to take pay cuts to move on. Surely all they care about is their bank accounts. Mate, that squad is full of snakes. That's all I'm going to say. Then we should, they don't like, it's very easy for us as fans to try and think a player thinks like us. They don't. A lot of them aren't United fans. A lot of them don't know what Man United's all about. They're brought here. Adrian Rabiot knows fuck all about Man United. Nothing. Most of the players we bought aren't United fans. We're the fans. We're just in a very unfortunate position where we've got a bunch of mercenary, selfish snakes who shouldn't be here. But we've got bloody loads of them. And you know what? Ronaldo's not the only player that doesn't want to be at United, by the way. There are some players that are so unhappy there that would leave tomorrow. Listen to what they say when they're on international duty. And they're the ones who are speaking publicly. There are players there that would love to be out of Man United. Love it. Hi Mark, these players shouldn't be paid their wages this week, says Leighton. Well, they're contracted to get them paid, so, Do you think it's fair for fans to turn on Glazers because ultimately on paper the squad is better than Brentford and board fully support Eric Ten Hag on the turf? No, they don't, Eric Ten Hag. Sources say Barca might keep De Jong and sell Ober instead to pay Silver Clause. Look, Ricky, I think after last night, we need a miracle to get De Jong. I think last night, a lot of people would have said it wasn't going to happen. Yesterday morning, I was very confident. I'm not now. I just can't understand why he would come. The only reason he's coming to United is money. There's no other logical reason. Nobody, not even a United fan, can say to De Jong, this is the place to come. We're bad at the moment, but we're going to be good in 2 years. Why would you come to Man United if you're a decent player? That's the horrible thing. Even as fans, we would say, you're only coming for the money. Why would you come here unless you're completely desperate or a mercenary? And he's neither of those things. So I just don't see how it happens anymore. I think, we're not playing until a week tomorrow as well. So this next week is going to be full of desperate links. We're going to keep getting linked to Rabiots and players like that because that's all you're going to get at the last in the last knockings. And I've said it many times before, but unfortunately the pre-season positivity, people didn't really want to listen, which is natural. But think of it like this. At the end of last season, we were terrible. The worst Premier League Man United side we've ever seen. We've let Cavani go. We've let Lingard go, we've let Pogba go, we've let Matic go, and we've let Mata go. All of them, for different reasons, we were right to let go. But a top striker, a half-decent midfielder in Lingard, a top midfielder in Pogba, the best CDM we had in Matic, although he was ageing, and Mata, a top professional. 5 players that, across a squad, they weren't our 5 worst players. They were somewhere between probably 8th and 15th in the squad for their ability, yeah? We've replaced those 5 players. We've replaced those 5 players with Eriksen on a free, a backup left back, and a second choice centre back that we overpaid for. So So we've lost 2 midfielders and we haven't replaced them. We've basically swapped Malacia for Telles. Like, you can see why we got worse. Exactly what Travis just said. We've sold nobody, we've bought next to nobody, and we've lost players that haven't been replaced. Ten Hag has been hung out to dry, 100%. And I think my biggest fear is this morning is that I don't know how long Ten Hag's going to last. I'm not going to say Ten Hag out. You know that. You're not going to say Ten Hag out, but it doesn't work like that. Results will kick him out. The media will kick him out. And eventually fans will kick him out. But I just think he's set up to fail. I can't think of a Man United manager that started their career with 2 losses like that. You know, I feel like the scene has been set. And the worst thing is, I said it in October. No, I said it when we were talking about. See, this is where I get really concerned. When we were talking about pre-season predictions, I predicted we'd have a good August when everyone's happy and bouncy because they've had a good pre-season. I predicted we'd have a good August, and then when we hit September, October, when the Europa League kicks in and the Carabao Cup and you're playing twice a week and certain people aren't playing, the cracks will start to show. The snakes and leaks will start to come, and that's when the season will go bad. But I really did think we'd start the season well, you know, with the bounce. I still think in September and October things are going to get worse because we're going to be playing twice a week and the squad's not good enough. But we've also had a bad season as well. So convince me that this ain't horrific. Like, how many more? We've lost 2 games already. We will lose over 10 games again, easy. Which means we're going to lose, you know, nearly 30% of our games. It's horrific. And as I say, the only positive is if people can put aside all their differences and just focus on the most important thing. We need to get this club back. We are not rebuilding. We are still, I think many people thought we've fallen down the mountain and now it's the long journey back. We're not. We're still falling down the mountain. And that mountain's getting bigger. So we need to work together to get rid of these owners. We're now in for Icardi. Srayan, if we go for Icardi, I've always liked Icardi, but you can't. Look, I like Icardi. I don't mind Rabiot, but their reputations off the pitch are a disgrace. You can't bring that into that dressing room. Maguire, Fernandes, McTominay, Rashford has a hold over this club, says Tom. I think they do. Convince me they don't. But look, I could talk to you all day. I'm not going to. I need to go for a walk and clear my head. I am doing a watch along this afternoon. Chelsea Spurs. I think it'll be a good game. So if you want to join me on That's Football, be live from 4 o'clock with that. Obviously, if anything happens, we'll go live. But I don't think anything's happening other than people moaning today. And obviously, we've got the forum today. I think the forum might be at 7 because I'm on TalkSport at 8 o'clock again. So it might be a 7 o'clock show today. But thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like. Please do subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to 430,000. We're on the road to 1.5 million now. Thanks everyone who's been tuning in. I know it's not what we want to be talking about. We want to be talking about positive stuff, but at least it's a bit of therapy and we can have a bit of a chat because at the moment we've got nothing else. Take care, everybody. Try and just take your mind away from United at the moment because it will make you feel down. As I say, it's the first time in a long time I really just didn't want to do a show. Rishi says, Moan Bridge. I take it on the chin, mate. What else am I supposed to do? My football club's in the worst state it's ever been. It's going to get worse. We've got people representing us on the pitch who shouldn't be there. We've got owners who are bleeding us dry. Yeah, I think Moan's probably quite a light interpretation of how I feel about this club at the moment. So yeah, thanks for that. Speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.